Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. I have two 3-year aged, 40% alcohol blended Scotch whiskeys, and here is McCormick Scotch blended Scotch whiskey, bottled in Weston, Missouri by McCormick Distillery, Holiday Distillery, founded in 1856. And there's a label, looks like a yellow picnic table, and it's got a Scottish bagpiper on it. And I think this has been discontinued for two reasons. They don't have it listed on the website anymore. They used to have it listed. Second reason, they were selling this in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana at a store for $4.99 for the liter. $4.99 glass bottle. They had plastic bottles too. It was different. My friend David got me a bottle. That was a nice gift. Thank you, David. And that's a crazy price. I saw this listed on Specs website. They still have it in stock for $18. I sent an email to the company, McCormick, and I asked them, do they still make it? And I never got a response. I don't know what the deal is on that. Here is Trader Joe's blended Scotch whiskey. This is procured by Hamish Robertson, which is a not a trading company. What do you call it? Independent bottler for Joe's, a whiskey broker, I guess you could call it. That's Hamish Robertson. It's also aged 3 years. There's a little write-up on the back, about how awesome it is and all of that. Yeah, they just say they age it in oak barrels, which is a meaningless statement because all Scotch whiskey is by law aged in oak casks, but they just put that on there. All right, so it seems like they get their products from Hamish Robertson, which my research showed is owned by William Grant and Sons, which is a big Scotch distiller, actually. But Hamish Robertson is their company that does the independent bottling. So I don't know if it's any Grant's whiskey in there or they just kind of operate independently and it just happens to be bottled. You know what I'm saying? Owned by Grant. So I don't know how that is set up. All right. It's like a company that owns a company and then their subsidiary is Hamish Robertson. It's complicated. This was $10.99 and it is a liter. And I don't know if the price has changed since I bought it. It's marginally good. I wouldn't call it real good. It's kind of bitey. I think the McCormick is better, and I think McCormick's going to win. But it's questionable. That's why I do a blind taste test, because I don't really know until I do the tasting. They seem to change every time you taste them, But would I recommend buying at Trader Joe's? It's up to you. You're only losing $10.99 and no big great risk. I mean, now the McCormick for $4.99, yeah, there's no risk there. Basically giving it away. So you could see that, or maybe you can see that the McCormick is lighter. It's pale, and this one has a little amber to it, but not much. So I think the Trader Joe's is probably has caramel color added, colored with caramel. Can't say that, but I assume probably. That's a common thing in Scotland. They'll add caramel color in. Well, also in the United States and Canada to make the whiskey look a little darker. Now, the McCormick, like I said, it's pale straw. It doesn't look like they bothered to add any color into it, but that would be a cost, right? And so they're trying to keep the cost as low as possible, or I should say tried to keep the cost as low as possible, because I do believe it's discontinued, especially since I didn't get an answer. But maybe the company's bad about answering emails or something. I don't know. And it doesn't really matter. So both of them are liters. Okay. Common whiskey aroma. Common whiskey. I'm looking down, but I don't really see a difference at a glance. Common whiskey aroma with a little tweak to it, maybe peat. That's definitely debatable. So anything extraordinary or unique about these? No. It's just like what you would call regular. Regular, basic. But like I said, not bad. It's not like, oh, that's awful. Now the question might be, well, why would you want to buy something? That's a legitimate question, and you'd have to evaluate that on your own. You say, well, I just like to buy cheap stuff, save money, whatever. Real careful with spending. Or you might say, well, I don't care. I'm not particular. I just do mixed. You do highballs or other cocktails, and you don't care. Well, you just want a 40% base. That's a good answer. A bad answer would be, I want to enjoy the intricate flavors of both, because you're not going to get that. Sweet like sugar water. Most whiskey to me, I don't care where it comes from, tastes like sugar water. To me, it just tastes like sugar water. Peaty, nope. Smoke, no way. Honey, yes, there's a honey flavor. Don't know where that comes from. Don't know how that. We know it's not flavored. Scotch whiskey is not allowed to be flavored. You say, yeah, but they have Cutty Sark honey, and I know there's Irish Paddy's honey. Yeah, but those are labeled on the bottle. Paddy's Irish whiskey with honey. Okay, so that's open on the label. They are allowed to do that, but they can't add flavor and then not tell you, you see. So, and then it wouldn't be technically a whiskey. It would be a whiskey liqueur. And my friend David last night kept asking, what is a liqueur? He was having trouble saying it, liqueur. I think he was just putting us on because he knows what it is. I don't know what he was talking about. I was talking about malt beverages. They're similar, like a malt beverage to a beer. I was making an analogy. A malt beverage is not a true beer. It's like a beer liqueur. It's a beer flavored to make it taste like, fruit punch or something. And a whiskey liqueur is like the same thing. It's made to taste like honey or peach or blackberry or whatever they do with them. And it's usually for people who don't really like the taste of whiskey, but they like those sugary sweet products, but they want the alcohol, no, I mean. So, and they have the same thing in the wine world. They call wine specialties. Like Icon, I saw that it's been coming out. I know E&J Gallo makes it. They use an alias name called I can't remember it. It's their line of like another wine that they want to disassociate themselves from. But then on their own website they acknowledge that they make it in an indirect way. But so you get that with all three classes. Wine, there's flavored wine, wine specialty, MD 2020 electric banana or whatever that's called. Same thing. So wine based, flavored whiskey and flavored. You can even have flavored bourbon, but it's got to be on the label. And that's what confused me for years, because I kept reading bourbon cannot be flavored, but I was like simple-minded on that. What they meant was not flavored and then just sold and called it bourbon. No way. But I was at a store last week, right there on the shelf. Bourbon with natural flavors, but it's on the label, so you see it. It's there. It's not just slipped in and you don't know it. That's the whole point. Now, that's what I didn't understand. That had me so confused. But now I'm not confused. All right. But in Scotland, you cannot flavor blended Scotch and sell it as Scotch. In the United States and Canada, however, you are able to do that. You can add flavoring and just say Canadian whiskey or American blended whiskey. Now, if you want to put it on the label that you added it, that's your option, but it's not a requirement. If you read the regulations, say disclosure required, checklist, no. So how about that? So if you want to stay away from any chance of flavoring, get Scotch. It won't have it. Get Irish whiskey. It won't have it. Get Canadian. Well, it might have it. Get American. It might have it. So you got to watch. Now, anything like if you see straight bourbon, then you know it has no coloring or flavoring. So straight bourbon is absolutely not allowed to have coloring or flavoring. Straight Tennessee whiskey, no coloring or flavoring. Now, be warned, if it just says Tennessee whiskey and the word straight is not listed, then you better set off your alarm, because then it might have flavoring if you read very carefully the regulation. And that is why I think George Dickel has such a fantastically odd flavor, because I think they are adding something to it. I don't know what. Maybe they let Flintstone vitamins soak in it, because a lot of people will say it tastes like Flintstone vitamins, which is a unique mineral flavor, strange thing. Now these two, you could not say, oh, they have no flavor. They're just bland and nothing. They're not nothing, but they just basic, like, you know, it's just like multi-grains, which is what it is, at least duo grain. It's grain whiskey. Now, what grain is used to make grain whiskey? That is up to the distiller. There's no rule. You could use barley, corn, or as they say in England and France, maize. You can use rice. They make a lot of rice-based whiskeys in Louisiana. Well, they make some rice-based whiskeys in Louisiana. I don't know about a lot. It really doesn't matter, because you're going to get the same result, which is a grain spirit. Neutral, no flavor, basically, no aroma, clear, odorless, colorless. You know, it's just like you say like vodka. Yeah, something like that. The flavor is going to come from the single malt, the malted barley, single malt whiskeys. And they might add one. You have to add at least one to the grain whiskey. And that's the law in Scotland. It has to be grain whiskey, column still grain, and then the flavor from the malt. Malt whiskey. Single malt. In the United States, they would call that straight whiskey being added to it. Usually bourbon, but that, if you read the regulation, that's not required. It doesn't say you have to add bourbon, but that's usually what they do because it's such a common product. Doesn't say how good the bourbon has to be. Doesn't say how good the single malt whiskey has to be. It could be the cheapest old junk cast off stuff in the world, which with some of these you figure it probably is. So it'll have a little flavor, you know, a little something going on. Abel Nolasco says, good morning, Jay, not drinking, but okay, anyway, this one has a little peat note. And I mean little, like virtually none, but it's there. It's just an inkling of it, a twinkling of it, a shadow of peat. Now, smoke, no way. You can forget that. That's not present in either one of these. But there is a little peat, which is like compost pile. You say, oh, that sounds disgusting. Well, and when you think about it, I guess it is. It's decayed organic matter, but that forms that peat in Scotland and Ireland. And they cut it and let it dry in the sun till it gets crumbly, you know, dry like charcoal, and then it burns. And back in the old days, that's how they would heat their homes, with that stuff. I guess their house smelled kind of peaty. But of course, now they got gas furnaces, natural gas, and oil, and all the kind of modern stuff, electricity, and that kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, and yeah, and one more thing. In America, you can blend in grain spirits without aging it, which gives it a different type of flavor, right? Unaged. And now people will call that vodka. Vodka. It's not vodka, Because if you read the regulations carefully, which I'm thinking people that scream that all the time never have looked at a regulation on these things. It says grain neutral spirits must, didn't say maybe, if you read your regulation, it said must be stored in oak vessels. Now, if you're storing it and it's in oak, what's it doing in oak? You say, aging? Correct. You say, yeah, but what if you only store it for a day and the next day you blend it with the straight bourbon and make a blended whiskey? Yeah, that's right. It only aged 1 day. It's not going to take on much characteristic, but it is technically aging in the most, technical sense. Whereas vodka can never touch wood. Go read it. ttb.com. They're updating their website right now. It has to be stored in stainless steel. Cannot touch wood. As soon as it touches wood, it's now whiskey. Okay, so whiskey and vodka have the same grandparent, unless it's potato vodka or grape vodka. Different story then. I'm talking about grain vodka, Seagram's grain vodka, 100% grain, for instance, a very popular brand. Use wheat. 2 types of wheat, they say on the website, don't know what they are. Some kind of northern, Iowa, Wisconsin, or whatever those states are that make wheat. Iowa, Illinois, or something. I don't know really. It's northern. They don't grow wheat too much in the south because it's too moldy down here. It gets all kind of mold on it. Too much humidity, you see. But as soon as it touches wood, it's no longer vodka. It's immediately whiskey. I think. Oh, I just tasted the wood. Talking about wood, and I'm tasting a little oak. So, does McCormick have some character? It has some. Does have some. Does it have a great amount? No, but it has more than you would imagine. So you buy this, it's so cheap you think, oh, it's gonna be a nightmare, but it isn't. Then you say, well, wait, it scores a B. Now it might be 83 out of 100 or 8.3 out of 10. Same thing. I see some video reviewers, they seem baffled by that, They crack me up. They're like, oh, I don't use a 100 scale. I use 8.3 out of 10. I'm like, well, you know how math works? But I've had some admit I don't know how to do math, and I believe it. Or they'll say I use a 5-point scale. I don't score it a 9 out of 10. I scored a 4.5 out of 5. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of like the same thing. Okay, so, oh man, I can't get over that when I see those. It just, every time it just, cracks me up, like people say. Okay, you can scale it down or up. It's the same thing. It's all percentage. I can understand why people are bad at math, because I had bad math teachers when I was in school. They never would explain it. They would just give you information out of a book, but they never explained it, like put it in the proper perspective. So you don't really know what you're doing. You just got a bunch of numbers that have no relevance to real life. And so it's confusing. Now, if they would explain it properly, then all the children would understand it and be able to calculate it pretty fast. Unfortunately, they didn't. So it handicapped me until I went to college and I had the proper, and then I did have proper instructors, professors that did know how to teach it properly. And then I was like, oh yeah, well, this is not even hard. If you have the proper instruction. Okay, you say, well, that could be applied to history or English or anything. That's right. This one, like I said, has a little peatiness, and I think it's the Trader Joe's. Do I like the Trader Joe's more? I thought I would hate it. No, wrong word. I thought I would dislike it a little bit more than the, and I don't dislike either one. I thought I would like it a little less. That's the proper way to say it. I thought I would not like it as much. But it's kind of even at this point. And when we talk about regular price, not these crazy deals that we find in Louisiana, off the wall deals, which are off the grid of almost reality, and it sounds like lies, but then we know it's not lies because we experienced it. I'm not lying when I say I bought 6 packs of beer at Aldi for 99 cents each. That happened. That was a month ago. Why did they have, we're talking about 8% stout, 6% porters. Not great beers, but enjoyable. I've been enjoying them. 99 cents. Somebody told me I'd have bought the whole pallet. Yeah, but then you'd get sick of drinking that chocolate lava cake stout and that chocolate peanut butter porter. You would get sick of it. You can't drink it all the time like like natural ice that I buy as a standby. You could drink that all the time because it tends to be dry, generally dry, and it doesn't get next to you and make you, give you the frisson, the willies. But those are real stories that really happened, and I couldn't explain it. I was just like thinking, is this correct? And I thought it was going to ring up wrong. So let me bring it over to the checkout, see what happens. And it rang up 99 cents. I went back, got more. I said, ooh, that is madness. That was the cheapest 6-pack I ever saw in my life since I've been buying beer since 1996. Now I remember buying Falstaff. Remember that? Got discontinued 20 years ago. It used to be a big brewing company, but they slowly declined and completely faded away. But they had it for $1.99 a 6-pack at Schwegmann's, also out of business. Schwegmann's, I said $1.99. I'll buy this 6-pack. Don't know if I like it, but who cares? And I figured I'll never see another beer in a 6-pack for $1.99. Well, I didn't. I saw it for 99 just last month, 2025. But then what am I talking about? I mean, I found, but I was about 4 years ago, I found 100 Piper Scotch, 750 milliliters. Yeah, 750 milliliters, full amount, $3.98. Beat that. And I'm never looking for these deals. I just stumble across it and I'm like shocked, Oh, yeah, this is McCormick. Oh, wow, second failure. This is the Trader Joe's. Whoa, it's getting treacherous now. I was coming out the gate just like I'm going to have a perfect season. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be like the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to go 17-0. Because one year the Miami Dolphins won all games in the whole season. They won all 14 regular season games. That's when they used to play only 14 games. And then they won all the playoff games, including the Super Bowl, of course, because that's the final playoff game. And they finished 17 wins, no losses. But wait, now my mind is failing. Didn't the Chiefs do that a few years ago? Or am I thinking, did I have a dream at night that happened? Now I'm confused. But I know Miami did it in 1972. This I know. 17 wins, no losses. So it's so difficult to do. Now, but that's how this challenge series started. I had like 10 challenges under my belt. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go undefeated. It wasn't a case of overconfidence, though, because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking you could fail because you could run up against some ho-hum products like this one against another ho-hum, then you're asking for it. Or even some other higher shelf that sometimes they'll run you ragged, make you question things. So I got no excuse. I don't feel good about it. But it just happened. I mean, I could lie and, you can't see the label. I could say, oh, yeah, I got it right. But I'm not that worried about it. I'm not, even if I was worried about it, I'm not going to lie. If you're on the internet doing videos for whatever product and you're making up lies, something's wrong with you. You clearly have a problem. Something psychologically wrong with you. And you certainly can't be trusted. Now, I just got to take it. If it happens, it happens. Now, what's going to happen when I jump over to brandy, which should be later this month? I don't have that much scotch. I don't know, because I don't know what this product's going to be like. I know nothing about it. I've never watched a video for it, and I never read a review. I just know it's a cognac, and ain't nobody ever heard of it, which is probably why I got it for $11.99. But it is a VS cognac, and I checked the online. Well, actually, I saw it in a store here in this town. Not this town, but this area, region, New Orleans area. I just saw that in April. It was $58. $58. That's the regular price. But I got it at another store for $11.99. Actually, it wouldn't ring up. They were trying to ring it up, and it wouldn't ring up, wouldn't ring up. So then the liquor guy says, well, let me see this. He's like, I don't know what's going on, man. He's telling the cashier, I don't know what's going on. Their liquor manager. He said, just charge. He comes up out of his head, charge $11.99. And he told me, is that okay? I say, yeah. Of course, I don't know what the regular price was. I had no research on that. Turns out it was a great deal because it's 58. I just saw it, 58. Okay, so, but anyway, that's another example. I don't know what's going to happen with that. That might be a catastrophe series where I get it wrong half the time, and then it's just too bad. Now, you could argue, well, who cares, because you're doing products that no one knows about. All right. You're doing products that have no relevance. They're obscure. They're not even niche products. They're obscure. They're on the outer realm of any kind of, Scotch appreciation or cognac. Oh yeah, I agree with that. McCormick, you ever see videos for that? I don't. And I did research, and they ain't nothing. It's, mine, David's, our duo. Well, he doesn't have a channel, our duo, and a few others, but it's like it doesn't exist. Trader Joe's, same thing. Doesn't exist. You look on YouTube, that doesn't exist. That's not a real product. That's fake. Like, I got somebody to make a label for me. Look at their website. It's not listed. So I get that. But I'm putting it in competition against stuff like Johnnie Walker Red Label, where that's huge. You get all the videos for that. It'll take you months to watch all the videos, unless you do nothing all day but sit and look at videos, which I have a lot of stuff that I stay busy with. But so yeah, all right. I'll concede to that. If you do a bunch of obscure products, you could say there's no point to it. Oh, well, no big deal. We haven't lost anything except time. But, it's fun to try them. Really, it is. And to make a counter argument on those obscure products, what's wrong with trying them? It's like almost a situation where you can't just write them off. You say, well, it's some small company. Well, so you think every company's big? And then a lot of people have trapped themselves. They can't say that, because all they ever do is talk about, I support mom and pop. I support little. I don't like the macro, the big, what they call them, the evil empires, the big companies. I hate them. Yeah, but they control 95% of the liquor market. So then, well, you can't have it both ways. You can't say you support the little ones, the little guy, the little man, but yet you're going to downgrade people that's trying a obscure product. Can't have it both ways. The best approach, I think, an approach that my friend David also agrees with, because he practices it, is just try whatever you see. Big, middle, range, small. Who cares? What difference does it make? Could be discontinued, like that peach. He tried that corn. This is a very strange product. Corn whiskey aged in peach barrels, Georgia peach barrels. Very interesting flavor. He was like, man, I want to find out about this company. I did research. I said, the company's out of business. They're out of business. I looked it up. It says permanently closed. Bring up the website. It says defunct, like whatever that alert is, website no longer around. So now he knows why he found it for $4.99, but it's a damn good product. It's really good. Think about all the beers that you loved where the company is gone. It wasn't because the beer was bad. It's just, they couldn't make it. You say, well, that probably applies to wine too. Probably does. I'm not that deep into wine, so I wouldn't know that. But we know with beer, the beer that it seemed like with me, it's like a curse. Every beer that I end up loving, then the company goes out of business. I'm like, great. Ain't that great? All right, well, y'all take care. And sorry I got it wrong, but that's the risk of the blind taste test, I would imagine. Bye-bye, everybody. I'll be back, God willing, for Friday video. And I think I have another outlier. Glenn Logie. People say, oh no, Glenn Logie. That's like, there's like 9 people in the whole world ever tried that. Yeah, well, that's an exaggeration, obviously, but in a relative sense, it's not really an exaggeration.